In this video, we're going to be talking about small claims court cases, what a small claim is, how to start a small claim, and essential things that you should be aware of if you need to file and pursue a small claim. Hi, I'm Daniel Shensmith. I'm a barrister of England and Wales. I have my own barristers' chambers and my own law firm. If you're new here, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified of new guides and tutorials. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to focus on money claims only. There are some separate rules if it's a personal injury or if it's a landlord-tenant claim, but I'm going to leave those for another video. So talking about money only claims, if a claim is not more than £10,000, it is ordinarily allocated to the small claims track. So first of all, a minor distinction. There is no such thing as the small claims court. It is a track which is heard at the county court. So as a brief overview, the small claims track is usually where a claim is expected to take no more than a couple of hours of court time to be heard and decided, whereas the fast track is a claim which is expected to take no more than 1 day, which is around 5 hours of court time. And the most complex is what we call the multi-track, which is a claim where we expect to take at least 2 or more days to hear in full. The main differences between the tracks are the costs that are applied and the rules that you must follow. And the biggest distinction with the small claims track is that costs are usually limited to the fixed costs only. There are some exceptions, but I will come back to those later. But broadly speaking, if you bring or you're defending a claim on the small claims track, then either party is only at risk to the fixed costs. These are things such as the issue fee when you issue a claim, the court hearing fee because you normally pay a fee for a claim to be heard, and perhaps any fixed costs for applications that may have been made along the way, or fixed costs for experts and such things. But you are not normally at risk to your opponent's legal fees. But there are exceptions. One thing that can push a claim onto the fast track is if you've got lots of witnesses and it's a very complicated case, even though it might be less than £10,000. If the court determines that you need all of these witnesses to come to court, but it's going to take a full day or 2 days to hear the claim, it may be pushed onto a different track. But the court's reluctant to do that because they like to keep small monetary claims on the small claims track. But this is something to bear in mind. And this is also something you can indicate in the directions questionnaire, where you indicate how many witnesses you expect to turn up to give evidence in your case. So that's broadly what a small claim is. Now we need to think about how we start a claim. Broadly speaking, there are 2 ways to start a small claim. You can start the claim online or you can start it on paper. But the court services are trying to encourage you to start the claim online because it means everything is electronic, it's easier to manage, and there's a step-by-step process that you can go through online to file your claim. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to look at the online system. So if we hop over to Google and we search money claim online, you will see the government website here with make a money claim online. We go through to here, accept the cookies, and they've tried to make this as straightforward as possible. So you've got make a claim online. You can click here, you click continue as the new service. This takes you through the process which will determine whether or not your claim should be allocated to the small claims track. If it's over £10,000, that's telling the system that it's not going to be a small claim. But if it's £10,000 or less, you can save and continue. Then it will ask you about who the claim is against. You can say it's not against more than one person, so it's maybe one company or one person, save and continue. Then you can say yes, that they have an address in the UK, save and continue. And then assuming it's just yourself making a claim, again, save and continue. You can select you have a postal address in the UK if that's the case. This again is one of the things that I said might affect whether it's on the small claim or not. So you're going to say no if it's just a money claim against another person or a company. And you're not claiming against a government department, and most likely the person is going to be over 18. You are most likely to be over 18. Now for this section, if you are on a low income or benefits, then you may be able to get help with your court fees, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to say no and carry on. Then it will say you can use this service because it meets the criteria for a small claim and you can continue. Then if you've already had an account, you can sign in here, otherwise you can create a new account and give your details. Once you're inside the account here, you have to complete each of these sections. This is a relatively new system. Once you're inside the account here, you have to complete these sections here. You have to acknowledge that you've read this consider other options, because the court encourages you to seek mediation to resolve the dispute, because all parties are under a continuing duty to assist the court in trying to resolve the dispute between you. Then there's going to be a disclaimer under completing your claim, and then your details and your opponent's details, but the most important sections are going to be the claim amount and the claim details. Under claim amount, you're going to say what it is that you are claiming for, and it's not necessarily one thing. So as you can see in the example they've given here, you've got broken tiles and roof damage. So in this example that they are giving you, it looks like they're giving you an example where you've had somebody come to fix your roof. It's a common example used because fixing a roof is one of the scenarios where it's most obvious when something's gone wrong, because your roof will leak if it hasn't been fixed properly. So in the event that you've got this sort of claim, you might be claiming, as the example gives, for broken tiles, roof damage, and if it's leaked underneath and it's damaged something else underneath, you might be claiming for that as well. So you'll itemize each of the things that you're claiming for and the amount that you're claiming. Now, bear in mind, this won't include interests and it won't include any costs. This is just the cost of the things that you say has been damaged and it's someone else's fault. So assuming that the amount that you're claiming for is relatively straightforward to put in, for me as a barrister, the most important thing on this form is the claim details. This is what we would normally call the particulars of claim. This is one of what's known as a statement of case. This is what you say happened that caused some damage or loss, and who is responsible and why. The defense is another statement of case. That's what your opponent says. Actually, this happened, and actually I'm not at fault, and actually I don't owe you the money, and this is why. So both of them are opposing statements of case. But with this online system, this is where you put all of those details. So all you get is a blank box to tell the court what happened. This should be in very plain terms the facts that you intend to rely on in your claim. Now, this online system operates slightly differently than we would normally draft particulars of claim. In a normal claim that I would draft, I would interpolate the dates and chronological events within the claim itself. With this online system, it will ask you for a detailed timeline separately to this box. So in this box, they are just asking you for the facts of what happened. So for example, I answered an advert for roof repair. He came around, he measured it up, he gave me a quote, he came and did the work, I paid him the money, the roof leaked or some of the tiles fell off, and altogether it was a job that wasn't up to the standards and it's caused you loss. The money that you've paid him and the damage that's been caused because the roof leaked. Now, the reason that this online system asks you for a chronological timeline separately is because the court usually likes two things. They like a summary of the case and they like a chronology, a timeline. So once you've put your summary of the case in, you come to this screen here where you've got a timeline of events, and you can see from the example, you are asked for the key dates as to what happened and when. Then on the next page, you've got a list of any evidence that you intend to rely on. Now, while this screen says it's optional, I would say it's essential, because if you want the court to uphold your claim, you need the court to believe on the balance of probabilities that what you are saying is the correct version of events. The best way to do that is to demonstrate it with evidence. For example, as you can see from the drop-down list here, contracts and agreements. Now, a contract doesn't necessarily need to be signed. If you are given a contract and you pay the money under it and the person does the work under it, that contract is then deemed to be accepted by conduct because you've paid and they've come to do the work. If you've contacted an expert and they've said, yes, it was definitely the roofer that was at fault and that's why it's leaking, you might include that as well. Now, in normal claims, you need the court's permission to rely on an expert. But in this case, you can still include it and it will be up to the court whether they consider it. And as you can see, letters, emails, correspondence, photos, receipts, anything that supports the information that you've put in your summary and in your timeline as to how things happened and when they happened will support your case, and the court would be more likely to believe you. Once you've completed all these sections, you can submit your claim and then the court will issue a claim form. This will be a form with a claim number on it, all of your details and the defendant's details, and it will send you both a copy. Within the copy that goes to the defendant will be what we call a response pack, so it will give them the opportunity to say whether they defend the claim, whether all of it or part of it, or whether they admit the claim or part of it, and they are required to send that back to the court. At this point, there are some fairly strict deadlines that the defendant must adhere to. From the date that the claim form is deemed to be served, and it will say this on the form, the defendant has 14 days to respond to it, either with a defence or with an acknowledgement of service. If they file an acknowledgement of service, they have an additional 14 days to file a defence. After that, you will wait for further documentation from the court. There is a second, less simplified version of this online form which I will cover in another video. It looks like this when you are logged in, and you can see there's a button to begin a new claim, and you can start this process on a different system. This process itself is not much more complicated, but it gives you the opportunity to file a separate particulars of claim. So if you wanted to instruct a lawyer to draft a full particulars of claim, you might use this system because it gives you the option to follow up this submission with a full separate particulars of claim, which you must file within 14 days of filing the claim. So that's the overview of filing a small claim online. It's by no means an alternative to seeking legal representation and advice, but I hope it gives you some confidence in getting started. Leave me any questions that I can address in future videos in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.